Hello and welcome to the Daring and Mighty podcast with me, your host, Katie Phillips. And I'm excited to have another Sisters on Speed Dial segment for you today with my very dear friend, Dani Sunberg. Dani and I met in Bali early last year, and we have become firm friends, and she's been really enjoying the Daring and Mighty podcast. She's enjoying that season 1 is all about the sacred void, and we've been voice noting backwards and forwards because every single episode has been really inspiring her to understand even more about her own sacred void experiences. And the reason I wanted to interview her is not that she has the most gorgeous heart and incredible mind. She is not in midlife, and all the stories I have shared so far of myself and the interviews that I've done to date have been with midlife women. Dani's a little younger, she's 38, and she has 2 experiences of the sacred void, and she is currently in one of them. And I thought it was really important to share this perspective because I can relate. I can look back at my early 20s and my early 30s and see where I was being invited into an identity shift, which essentially is what the sacred void is all about. I hope you enjoy hearing my interview with Dani as much as I enjoyed being with her. She is an absolute golden human being, and I'd love to hear your comments after you've heard the show. So here we go, let's dive in. Hey Dani.
Hey Katie.
Hi my love, so good to see you.
It's really nice to see you. Yeah, back at home.
Back at home after my 3-week road trip, which included seeing you and my mermaid friends.
That's right, the first week, best week.
And if anybody's actually watching this on YouTube, they'll see the occasional sparkle of mermaid hair for both of us. We've both got a couple little strands left. And that's a story for another time. Oh, darling, I was so inspired to talk to you today because, well, I'm going to keep it real. I think you might be my only fan of the podcast so far.
I know that's not true, but I am a big fan. I might be your first fan.
I think you might be the first OG fan of the Daring and Mighty podcast.
Great.
Yeah.
Great. Happy to wear that award.
Yes.
I
And it's,
mean, this is fabulous. I'm so happy to be on it. I'm already like fangirling.
well, you've been avidly listening to every episode. And in this first season, I am talking about the sacred void. And everybody I've interviewed so far and all of my own stories are with women, including myself, over 50. And you related so much to all of the stories, all that I was personally sharing, all that the other women were sharing about their experience of the sacred void in midlife. But you're not in midlife. And truth be told, as I've been sharing my story, I'm realizing my sacred void, yes, I've had one recently, starting around the age of 49 through to 51. But I've had other void experiences in my life, and let's call them transitions, times of change, of when you know you get the calling that something has to change, something usually has to be let go. And then it's that in between of, well, I don't know what's next, but you've got to take the jump anyway and hold the faith. And it's in that space that's the void. And you've been sharing with me on multiple voice notes and messages, which I've loved because you and I are both fans of the long voice note. And it occurred to me, we need to share your stories because you've experienced profound times in your own void. So shall we do that?
I would absolutely love to. And I want to clarify that what is midlife? Because I would say I really feel on the cusp of it, and maybe that's what my current void is about, is like this awakening into midlife feeling. But no, my midlife situation is not menopausal or perimenopausal. So I'm not sure it counts. I don't know. I'm just curious what you think about that.
Well, I mean, to me, midlife, when does that start? I mean, they do, I mean, astrologically, is it not like early 40s?
Well, yeah, the little bit that I know, so take everything I say, with many grains of salt, is that what am I in right now? My Uranus opposition astrologically, which is the midlife awakening. And it's 38 to 42, and I'm 38.
Right. Yes. So I had transitions that I would now go back and look. I can see now in reflection that they were void experiences. I had them in my early 20s, I had it in my early 30s, I had it in my early 40s, and then now I'm early 50s. So it's for me, it's like every decade there's been quite a significant change up in my life. But I
Blame the
think,
planets.
sorry,
I said blame the planets.
totally blame the planets. But I also think it comes to all of us. And then I think it takes daring and mighty courage to really hear the inner calling of the up level that's being called of you, or the evolution that's being called of you. Because I don't think everybody necessarily listens. And I think there's an impact to that. Maybe we don't go straight down that rabbit hole right now. Let's go back to your first most memorable experience of the void and what was going on for you, because it's a really relatable story.
The first thing that comes up is, when I started let's say my first major void experience, which was at about 29.
Hmm.
I was a lawyer at a big law firm in Washington, D.C., and had lived my life in that very cliche sort of lockstep linear professional path of you go to school, you're supposed to get really good grades so you can go to school again and get a graduate degree, and then you can have a job that brings you prestige and power and respect and money and independence. And then that means that my parents had done a good job and they all get to pat themselves on the back and go home. And I had done that because I was a good girl.
Me too.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. It's an epidemic. So so I was at this law firm, and I knew when I got the offer, I had that call moment of you really just needed validation that you were quote unquote worthy of a law firm, because that is sort of the ivory tower holy grail career for a young lawyer.
Mm.
And I got it. And there was something in me that said, you don't need to take this job anymore. You got what you were looking for.
Oh, really? You had that thought when you got the offer?
Mhm. And that was way too difficult a thought to let through, because it would really mean the tower card, tarot type experience of burning it all down. And I was way too scared to pivot in a career that I had just spent, $250,000 paying for, and then to just say, never mind. It was just too much change, too little confidence, too little clarity in what would come next. And so I took the job. Uh, and I worked at that firm for about 2 years. And I was working on the biggest case of my life, really, defending $1 million. And this is started with this scene.
Can we just
And
pause there? Danny, let's
yeah,
pause for a second because it broke up a little bit and I didn't hear what
okay.
you said. So you were working on the biggest case of your career so far.
I was working on the biggest case of my career so far, defending this client against a $6 billion judgment. And that meant that there was a lot of partners and people paying attention to this case. Um, Now, I felt total burnout, which is not atypical in general, but then compound it with preparing for a trial where, the 60-hour weeks or 70-hour weeks keep increasing. And, eventually we were working from the place where the trial was taking place in St. Louis, and I was based in DC. So now I'm living, working, breathing, eating out of a hotel room for a month. And everything is just tightened and tightened around me. And I knew I was burnt out. I knew I was anxious. I knew I was depressed. My hair was turning gray. There was nothing healthy in my life except for
And
my
how old were
husband.
you?
I was 28, 29, something, yeah,
And
20.
you were already burning out and hair going gray from stress.
Oh yeah, hugely. I mean, it's not like something was golden and then turned sour. This was starting out sour. That voice was already talking to me saying this isn't right for you. And so I went into it with tremendous grit because I knew I wasn't going to leave my team high and dry in the middle of this trial, nor would I really respect myself for doing something like that. And so I stayed with it. And I know so many people can relate to that, whether it's because there's, an internal drive to do it or because of external circumstances that make them feel pressured to stay. But it becomes unsustainable at some point. At some point, all of that, all of those systems and ways that I had learned to create my life, even just getting up in the morning and picking out my suit and brushing my teeth and getting on the metro, I would have these thoughts of like, would it be so bad if the metro crashed and then I wouldn't have to go to work? So
Oh
even
yeah, those hospital fantasies. I used to have those too. Just let me be sick enough, not too sick, but sick enough that I have to be in hospital and I can just rest.
you're right, right.
Right? Like I think
Love
when we
that.
when we hit that fantasy, it's a fairly severe sign that something is a little off kilter.
Yeah, it's a red flag, and you can either pay attention to it or not. Or you can say everyone has thoughts like this, ha ha ha, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
And I remember this is one of the things I was telling you in the voice note. I remember looking around at all my peers and colleagues and fellow law students who had graduated with me, and we're all doing our own thing now and on this hedonic treadmill together and making our success and like looking for just a little wink or a little something in the eyes or in the face that just let me know I know the secret that this is not what we thought we were signing up for, like this life of the suffering and the pain and the depression and the loneliness and the what am I doing really with my life, like that. Come on, we all share that, right? Like I was looking for it, did not get a speck. Like either not true, which for them, which is great, fantastic, or their mask was on much tighter than mine. And I was just like, what's wrong with me?
Yeah.
Why do I feel this way? I don't see anyone else reflecting permission to feel this way. And so, I got a prescription for an antidepressant and I couldn't fill it.
Mm.
I just couldn't fill it. I kept it in the bottom of my bag because maybe I would, but I couldn't. And I went to sleep that night begging for clarity, for an answer. Do I fill this prescription? Like, what do I do? What do I do? Do I quit? Right. And really, the question underneath all of that was fix me. Why am I broken?
Yeah.
Put me back together. Show me how to put myself back together. And that night, I had this dream that I told you about that I can only describe as a soul dream because have you had one?
I had one last night.
Stop, pause the
I I
podcast.
did. I had one last night. Would you mind sharing the dream? Because I remember when I heard it, I just loved it. And I think, often dreams are just a reflection of our day to day, where our head's at, where our brain's at. Oftentimes, I believe how we feel in a dream is a real sign. It's like it's not so much the content of the dream, the people in it, but how it makes us feel is a sign. And then there's dreams like, your soul dream that are just, I mean, hard to explain, but you know in your bones that there's a very wise message there for you.
I think that's the difference because I can tell you the dream and it might sound like a really fabulous regular dream, but I know how different it is just by the quality of the feeling, and it's nothing I can convey with words. But I went to bed that night and had this dream. Now, this was also the period of my life where I had just discovered the world of psychedelics. And so I was going to, in my rare free time, I was going to shows and seeing DJs and taking MDMA. Don't tell anyone. So,
Do I edit that bit out?
yeah, it's in my book. It's fine. So I had this really nice association with that experience because in it, I had that aha moment of there's no such thing as black and white, and there's no such thing as doing life right or wrong or being good or bad. And this black and white world that I realized I'd been living in for 30 years broke open. And it was just, multicolor, fun play, and it's all happening on the DJ stage, right? And so I'm like, wow, yes, okay, life is meant to be fun. I forgot. So in my dream, I'm in Europe at this like crumbling castle that in half disrepair, but it's got, like gorgeous bones, and the rocks are just, that haunting old, I don't know, European look. And
Mm.
so I go in and there's a fantastic show playing, and I'm in the show for a little bit dancing. And I'm like, okay, that doesn't feel enough. What else is here? So I walk out of the stage and meander through the castle till I get to this internal inner courtyard. And I can't hear the music outside. It's just peaceful. It's nighttime. There's no one out there except this one man. And he's kind of bending over a picnic table. I go over to him and I say, hi. And he says, hi, do you want to see the show? And I said, oh, I was just in there. And he goes, no, not that show, the real show. And I said, okay, what's the real show? And he starts tugging, like gently, like he's pulling taffy out of my right knee. And out comes this purple eggplant colored mist. And I'm watching it come out of my body. Like, what is happening? What are you doing with that? What is that? And he takes it and he kind of, twists it around into this ball of misty purple. And then we throw it together up into the sky, into the night sky. And I see the purple mist fall into the sky and expand with the Milky Way and intertwine with stars, and everything is just lit up in like the cosmic colors, and the twinkling, bright stars are shining, and I am watching it so awestruck. Like, yeah, that's the real show. And that was it. And I woke up from my dream. So what happens, I think, with a lot of dreams is we interpret them. And I
Mm.
like to, pretend that I'm a Jungian dream interpreter sometimes, and I play with it and it's fun. But this dream had no such interpretation. Like it just landed in me. And that's how I know it was a soul dream. That feeling was this truth that had awakened in my bones. And I said, oh, I see you. And that truth was that mist that the man pulled out of my knee was my, let's say, my energy, my essence, my spirit.
Mm.
And he threw it up to the sky, and I got to watch the show. And so what it said to me was, I'm part of this cosmic awesomeness.
Mm.
I shine brightly. Let me out. And in that, that means there's nothing to fix. Like I am not broken and there's nothing to fix is what woke up with me in that morning. And that I carry through that void and this void and all of it. It's really this foundation cornerstone of what keeps me, in a, let's say, in the after. Like the before was before that dream, but before understanding that, and this is the after.
Yeah. And like you said, it's how it made you feel. It's almost like a voice of God experience, right? Giving you your answer that you had been praying for, asking for.
Right. Yeah. It had that quality of a higher self, a connection to something that was really speaking to me rather than maybe my ego working out stuff.
So I know that you didn't fill the prescription.
Right. Well, there's nothing to fix.
Right.
And I don't mean that to say that nobody needs their prescriptions. I mean it for me in that context. That was not going to solve the problem that I was looking at.
Mm.
The problem was an internal one, if we want to call it a problem, but it was just a new direction that I was wanting to point to and having trouble, refocusing my compass to do it, which is you have to look inside for all of life's fulfillment, and outside is fine. It can make you happy, but that's not where the goal is.
So I'm guessing the directive you woke up with went on to be this career isn't the right fit.
Oh
Did
yeah,
you get to
I
that
quit pretty
quickly?
much. Sorry?
Did you get to that understanding quickly after having that dream?
Oh yeah, it was immediate. Because the thing of it was right there the whole time, but it was behind this curtain that I just wouldn't pull open. And the curtain had been pulled open. And so there it was.
And how long did you wrestle with that knowing before you quit law?
Well, I stayed with it for a while because of this trial. So when the trial ended, I flew home the day it ended, right? Pack up. I'm so excited to get out of there. I fly back to DC. I open up the door to my apartment, just like I'm going to flop on this bed and take a giant uh, nap. And what happened was when I walked in, instead of, getting to take my nap, I got a phone call from the partner on the case that I had worked on the trial with. And he said, "Congratulations, the jury came back with their verdict and we won." And I said, "I quit."
Right then, that was your
Oh
response.
yeah. It came blop right out. And
Had
we
you,
were
and
both,
you hadn't planned it, it just,
well, I knew I was going to leave in that really clean space of post-trial before I had been assigned to anything new and got back into some cycle. But right then, no, I didn't know. No.
so, so the words come out.
The words come out, and that was it. That was my 2 weeks notice. When you go back to a place that you've given 2 weeks notice, you're persona non grata. And it's very funny to walk around the law firm and never get looked at or handed work, or, like the mask of like the personability and relationship and dynamic between teammates and colleagues. It's fragile. Like, I was like I was diseased, and if you came too close to me, like the other associates, and they were caught with me, then I might be contagious and they might
Oh
catch
yeah.
a
Yeah,
thought, right? You can't do
you're a
it.
bad influence. Nobody wants you around because you might,
Right.
yeah, others might follow you.
So that was it. I got married to my fiance maybe a few weeks later, and then we left DC altogether and did about a 2-year backpacking tour around the world. And that was my first opportunity to really let myself have the space and the stillness of not having to do anything, be productive, accomplish, right? All of that good stuff. And just ask myself and explore, who am I? What does it mean to be
Mhm.
Danielle in the world? What does it mean to wake up and be inspired to live my life? Like, what do I want for my life? All of those very kind of basic, simple, yet profoundly elusive questions that no one ever teaches us to ask ourselves.
You're making it sound kind of easy, the
Oh,
whole, the decision, I'm sure it wasn't, and we'll get to that. The decision of, I have to leave this job. And then you were married. I'm guessing the marriage was planned. That was in the calendar. You knew that
yes.
was coming, right? But had you planned the 2-year trip when you decided to leave law?
So when I knew I was going to leave within a reasonable period of time. And so, yeah, I was planning the whole thing.
Okay. Did you did you to and fro, back and forth about leaving? Was there fear of what the hell am I doing with my life next?
In some ways, yes, in some ways, no, and in some ways I could hide it. So, that was the fear that I was struggling with before I committed to the answer. Um, and then at some point, it's too much suffering to stay than it is to deal with the unknown of leaving. And that is when it all breaks down.
Yeah.
Um, in some ways, I quote unquote knew what I was doing, that I was tethered to a life that my parents could be proud of. I'd completely fallen off the rails. I was getting married, right? Like there was these milestone things that were happening that meant that I was still on the correct course. And then going traveling, I also signed up to help my husband with his new company and be on their operations team a bit while we were traveling. So again, I sort of saved myself from going
Mm,
completely free falling. And in some ways, I'm glad. I don't know how I would have handled a complete free fall.
yeah.
I think it allowed me to take that step because there was a gentle landing.
Yeah, well, because the good girl archetype, the good girl part of you, needed perhaps to have those rails either side of her to keep her feeling on track of sorts.
Right. Right. And for some people, that might still seem like too wide of rails.
Mm,
Those were the right rails for me in that time.
right. I know I'm skipping ahead to ask this, but it's there, so I will. How how much would you say you currently align with the good girl archetype now? Because we're how many years on from that moment, from when you left law? A lot's happened between then and now, but since you
9 years.
it's 9 years, and you've evolved enormously as a woman in that time. How aligned are you with good girl archetype at the moment?
Still aligned. In some ways, there's things about it that I've peeled away.
Mm,
And the more subtle layers of it that are more visceral and less explainable are ready to be looked at.
mm.
I don't know if it'll ever fully go away. Do you still feel it?
Yes, I do. And you've just said it really beautifully. There are layers to it. One of the big pieces I learned about the good girl archetype was that we make our good girl bad or wrong. When we talk about the good girl, there's some sort of inherent, yeah, badness about her. Like she's holding you back from living your wild, wonderful, daring and mighty life.
Mm.
But actually, the good girl just has a huge heart and she wants to love everybody and take care of everybody. And there is nothing wrong with that. It's when it's to our own detriment and to our own expense that there is a problem. And that's the dark side of that archetype. So, and I mean, for me, even just recently, taking the last couple of years of really pulling back in my business, my good girl came up again because the good girl wants everybody to be okay. I mean, when I closed down my membership that I'd been running for 5 years, and it was a very happy group of women who loved it and who didn't understand why I would close such a successful, inspiring space. I mean, you remember I shared with you and other friends about how I was feeling around that. My good girl and many other parts of me were like, what the hell are you doing? That does not make any sense. You love these women, you love this work. It's a beautiful offering, it's successful, it's bringing in money every month, like all these rational tick tick ticks. There's just something else inside me that knew it had to end for something else to begin. It didn't need to make sense. And my good girl, my goodness, she did not want to let anyone down. I mean, yeah, like I was really writhing and yeah, twisting myself in knots for a good, well, I'll say a couple of days. It didn't go on for very long. And I think that's what happens. I mean, I think the more that you evolve, the more you get to know and trust yourself, you can see, like, I could see what was going on. I could see that part of me. I could witness that part of me that was struggling with letting people down and then take care of myself and move forward with what Katie needed without guilt. I had to
Mhm.
go through the process. Yeah.
Yeah, I think forever I'll be going through that process.
Yeah. I mean, it's deep in our conditioning for many of us. Okay, so you traveled. Now you told me a story which I really hope that you'll share again here. You came back from 2 years seeing the world, and the idea was to see the world partly to see yourself, to find yourself and connect in with who you are and what your purpose is on this planet in this lifetime, right?
Mhm.
And then you found yourself in Santa Monica drinking coffee. So
Mhm.
could you share on your experience drinking that coffee and also reflect on what you found out about yourself over those couple of years away from the States?
Yes, and I want to contextualize that this story is about my self-doubt that showed up. And
Right.
I think that it came to me, I'd forgotten about it, but it came to me after hearing a previous episode that you did with Claire. And
Mhm.
you actually were the, I think, person who talked about your self-doubt in that episode, but it just struck me and, I'm your biggest fan. I was like, ooh. So I went back to my own self-doubt and yeah, do you mind if I read a passage from the chapter where I talk about it?
Please do. Yes, please do.
Just,
Yeah,
yeah. Okay.
go for it. Look it up. I'd love to hear it. What's the title of
The,
the book? If anybody wants.
so the title of the book is called Atlas of Being, From Briefcase to Backpack, One Former Lawyer's Exploration of the Human Way. It's fabulous. You should read it.
I should read it. I'm going to read it.
Yeah, I mean, it is an award-winning book, I'll say. I'll toot my horn for a second.
Please
All
do.
right. So this chapter I'm reading a passage from is about what you said, my coming home from being away from the States and away from that, acculturation that I grew up in, that we all grew up in, and that reverse culture shock of coming back into the systems and structures that are so invisible, but those like it's almost like an octopus with all those suction cups on my arms and legs, and it like feels the suction cups of the systems that I know in my bones, and it goes, and I'm like, oh, I'm back. And who am I here? And then self-doubt came in. So here we go. I sat outside at a trendy cafe in Santa Monica, sipping a coffee and soaking up the sunshine, my favorite pastime. In the US, for the first time in a long time, I wondered if I'd return to my old ways. Would my old persona creep back in if I spent enough time in the land of stars and stripes? Doubt started to sneak its way into the beautiful afternoon, unfurling like a dense fog. Shit, I wondered mid coffee sip. Is this all bullshit? Even though I knew I had incredible experiences that expanded my understanding of who I was and the nature of reality, I couldn't taste them or touch them anymore. They felt far away, an ethereal dream that slid through my grasp. Did any of it really happen? I thought I had traded my external labels for internal wisdom. But sitting here at this cafe, I felt the all too familiar vibe of my old stories closing in on me. I should have worn makeup today. What do people think of me having a coffee in yoga pants on a weekday morning? I should have brought my laptop so I could look productive. Now that I was stateside, I realized I had left the stability of my newly formed reality across the ocean. I felt wobbly, craving the validation of these strangers in bike shorts eating gluten-free quiche. Were all the insights I had collected another mirage of self-identity? Was
Mm.
quitting my legal career to find out who I am merely the telltale sign of a quarter-life meltdown? Was I being fooled, brainwashed by the trip of self-realization? I didn't feel realized, actualized, understood, or powerful. I felt confused. What have I done? I thought as I shook my head and tried not to cry.
And that's so, first of all, beautifully written. Just, you're such a beautiful writer. I will be reading your book.
Thank you.
Bit embarrassed I still haven't, but I will be reading your book. The good girl in me is embarrassed.
If you want.
And I do want. Um, it's so relatable, that self-doubt. And you're right, I was in a previous interview speaking with Claire and sharing how me coming out of my most recent sacred void and asking myself, have I, diving back into certain things in my life and wondering, have I learned nothing? Have I taken nothing from that very important period of time in my life where I really came home to myself, learned so much, reconnected with myself in a deeper way again, right? It's another time, another layer. And then you kind of feel like you're going back into life and wondering, am I changed? Did I evolve? Have I learned anything? What's actually different? Has anything actually changed? Or like you said, I think you used the word mirage. Or was that all just a mirage? Have I been kidding myself? Yeah. And you had such a journey when you were away, a huge spiritual exploration as well, right?
Mhm. And what happened is, oh, well, I'll read it to you.
Please do. Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
Mhm.
Carry on. I love it.
All right. So my mind offered me a proposition. Prove that these new insights about yourself are true, and I'll leave you alone. Ugh, I knew this was a trick. I knew it because of how reasonable it sounded. Nothing about the journey of self-discovery is reasonable. My mind demanded proof, evidence, something concrete. I didn't have any of those things, and it knew I didn't. I didn't come away from these experiences with a button or a t-shirt to show for it. They were only my experiences, whose truth lived in the memory of my heart. Was this good enough for my mind, which had a very clever way of using doubt to shroud my faith? What was once solid and clear felt hazy and shapeless. What kind of proof could I offer? My mind was such a terrific trickster. It backed me into a corner and made me want to throw my hands up and say, you win, pack my bags, head back to DC to see if I could pick up where I left off. But I couldn't. I could not surrender. There was no way I was going back to DC or interviewing at law firms to put on a blazer and clack away at a computer. I took a deep breath and noticed the tension in my body. My mind pulled at me, playing tug of war, but there was something on the other end of the rope, holding fast against the pull of doubt. Some deeper, silent force, gentle but insistent. It didn't goad me into playing any games or require any proof, but it was also never going to let go. So that's what I noticed in that cafe, nameless frame. I didn't know what to call it, say what it is, define it, but it was a feeling inside me that was like, okay, I'm in a tug of war because there's something here that wasn't there before that I feel that's never going to let go. And my mind can twist me around all at once, but I'm never going to let go. And that piece of me, through the work that I did on the journey, I learned to recognize as my intuition, my real inner voice, the spirit of who I am, that's
Mm.
always calling to me.
And I really feel that the more we listen to our inner whispers and take those leaps of faith, like the career that's not working, to use your example, the more we do that, the more we strengthen our relationship with ourselves, our self-trust, and we can hear our intuition, we can trust our intuition, we can take action on that more and more and more. And those struggles with ego or with the more wounded parts of ourselves become less dramatic. There's less drama around them. We can begin to see them more for what they are. We can move through it fast. It doesn't mean it just all magically goes away, because we're humans and we have crazy little brains. And the more we, like I just said, listen, the more we can hear our truth as well. right? Yeah. Yeah. I think it's very healthy to check in, and because of course you have to integrate. You had to integrate that 2 years. And that's really, that voice was inviting you to do that.
And it's not like that I walked up from the cafe and never had self-doubt again. It's not like it was done.
No. No.
But it was probably the experience that I suffered in the most of the self-doubt, the
Mm,
most acutely. Because when it would come back, I'd be like, oh yeah, I remember this. And sometimes I wouldn't be able to find that feeling of, aha, here I am in my body. But at least I knew it was there from past experience and I could rest on that knowing and
mm,
ride it out until, right, until I could find it.
mm. It sounds like you did spend some time reflecting on, well, I mean, hell, you wrote a book about it. You spent time reflecting on that 2-year journey.
I spent my entire, I feel like the space between that void and this void was reflecting on it and writing this book. And then it's like, oh, well, now you're due for another one. So go back in.
And isn't that interesting how it's guided your life? All of this, that one big decision way back then has really guided your life path. I want to get on to what you went on to do and the void that you're in now. But before I do, something that's really sparking in me to mention is just this idea of giving ourselves time and permission to reflect on profound life experiences so that we can integrate it and bring it into who we are going forward. Because I think it's really, really easy if you're in the practice of living quite unconsciously, you're not going to be doing that. And it's a shame because you're not bringing the new, evolved, wiser parts of yourself into who you are today, and taking that forward. And I say that because I reflect on when I first met you in Bali, and we had a profound, I don't know, week, 10 days together. And I came back from Bali changed. And I had to take some time to integrate that change rather than just get on with the next thing. And I feel like I am actually still doing that now with my last sacred void experience. So here I am, I'm busy again, I'm working, I'm absolutely definitely working in a different way with a different energy flowing through me with different motivations. And I'm busy and I'm juggling quite a few things, and I'm still reflecting and integrating what that 2 years was for me. I also am 24 hours landed back home from having just been on a massive 3-week road trip. I haven't even begun to integrate that yet. And I need to take some time to feel and think and reflect on what occurred over the last 3 weeks because it was incredible. It was really incredible. And if all I'm doing is just integrating the beauty of our world, I need to do that to take it forward. And I think the reason I'm saying that is because so many women and men, just human beings, just this life that we lead, it's so freaking busy that we rarely actually stop and acknowledge our successes or experiences, have gratitude for it. And we wonder why we're always on the treadmill of what's next. I need to be more, create more. I haven't done enough. That story. So I just felt like I wanted to
No, I'm
bring
so glad
that.
you did because what you're sparking in me is a noticing of the pattern of my two voids if I map them against each other. And they both started with massive burnout, which is a slowing down. It's that call that, I'm not at that point ready to listen to until I suffer enough that I am. So enter burnout. Um, and then the whole void, when we're into something unknown, we move slowly. It's like if you're moving through or going upstairs and you have to shut your eyes. You're gonna feel for the wall and, move your steps slower and more intentionally. And so when we're in the unknown, it is a slower space. in my experience and in the experiences of the women that I've heard on your podcast, it's like an I stop, I can't be still directive. And
Mm.
then I was reflecting on when my voids ended. Like, how did I know I was out? And it was because life sped up again. Um, and for one thing or another, not on purpose, but a lot of it is because life becomes known. Like things looked known at the end of my first void. I had created a new system of what my life looked like. I bought a house in Austin and we were on the path to pregnancy and I was working on my book and I had just started a new company with Ted and some other folks. And so all of these things filled the space and life sped up. And all of a sudden I wasn't feeling very voidy.
Yeah. I love that. Not feeling, so when you were not feeling very voidy, let us know what you were doing, and then let's talk about the current sacred void that you are in.
So the last years, like in between the voids, were motherhood. I was having two kids, um, publishing a book, another kid,
Yes.
birthing a company, and it was acquired in that time period as well. So kind of like gave it away, got some space back, and I had started a new business as a transformational coach.
Mm.
And that, I didn't just arrive at transformational coach, but there was little breadcrumbs along the way of clarity and like follow this until that's where it landed.
Mhm.
Um, and doing speaking and TEDx and workshops and kind of getting my feet wet in this world where I felt like I'm just on a different side of the stage from when I was a lawyer. We'd go to lunch and learns, we'd have people come in and do things like that. And now I'm on the other side, right? I was like, oh, what does it look like to be an entrepreneur? I think that is also such a big invitation for a void because no one can tell you what the rules are and you have to create them for yourself. And no one's going to take you to HR or, you know what I mean? Like, there's no way of being good or right or successful. And it's up to you to either pull in what you know, whether right or wrong, and just use it, or like take the time to consciously figure it out, which can feel really, really tough.
Mhm.
But yeah, that's the pattern that I noticed was the slowing down, starting the void, and then the speeding up on the end of it.
Right.
Does that track for you?
Oh gosh, totally. I mean, the last couple of years, I mean, I've shared this before and you know this, but the last couple of years, I mean, I was mostly thinking about how well my cucumbers and tomatoes were doing in the vegetable plot. That was new for me, but that was a lifelong dream to create that for myself. I wasn't busy. I'm busy now. There's no doubt I am busy. I'm creating a lot all at once suddenly. And it came from seemingly nowhere. It's not like I woke up one day and went, right, Katie, it's time to come out of the void and make a plan. And here's what you're going to do. It didn't happen like that. I just kind of found myself inspired and starting to create. And here we are. And I couldn't tell you the date that I realized I was out of the void. I think probably you or another friend said, hold on a minute. I thought, what? You're working? What are you?
It happened really quickly, it felt like.
It did happen quickly. Yeah, it did. But what was beautiful about it, which I love, it's been very feminine, which is this is the desire. It's like, for me, I think this is a big piece I'm bringing from the void. It's really now putting into practice what I've been teaching all these years in a whole other way where I desire my work to be inspired by my feminine energy. So it's our feminine energy that inspires, and then it's our masculine energy that takes that inspired action. So when I'm in action, I'm in masses of action. The last 3 weeks I haven't been, I've been playing and traveling and having fun, but that was in my plan as well. Like when I was inspired to create, I inspired my masculine to put all these structures in place and launch a podcast and launch a 5-day event and launch a new coaching program. But in the plan was, and please block out 3 weeks for play. Like that's part of the plan. So everything I'm doing is coming from the feminine, and my masculine is taking action in a way that aligns with me, that feels good with me, that works with my 51-year-old hormones and all the things. So yeah, it came, the end of my void came gently and suddenly with a burst of creativity and inspiration. I'm like, cool, that's great.
I'm going to put that experience on my vision board for how I'd like to come out of my void. Thank you to anyone who's
Okay.
listening up there.
So it's interesting. I mean, we talk about not feeling very voidy is when you know you're out the other side. But you don't come across to me as a not busy woman. I know you're in a void right now, but you're juggling a lot. You're a mama. You've got 2 little ones. I hear them screaming in the background of your voice notes. So, you're not just hanging out with your vegetable garden.
Well, it's funny. I would. Uh, I was just talking to Ted, my husband, about this the other day because, I was like, I am very busy in my void because I am a mother of 2 small children. And part of the decision of this void in my burnout at work was to stop working
Mm,
and to give my full attention to these little beings. And I really wanted to do that. And I also really wanted to not be a failure at
mm,
work. And so there was a lot of tension in it.
mm,
And so I think that, just like I did for my first void of giving myself what I think was a soft landing, of having an entrepreneur experience and the traveling and the marriage, which gave me those bumpers. I have bumpers on this void, and I'm not going as slowly as I could. I am busying myself to an extent. And no, I don't mean like caring for my kids is busying myself, but could I spend an extra half an hour sitting watching the leaves in the sunshine, having a cup of coffee instead of picking up their toys when they're at school? Yeah. Like I'm taking these moments away from stillness that I think I deserve, and I hadn't really noticed I was doing until
mm.
maybe about a month ago.
Because the habit is to be busy, right? To feel valid, to feel significant, to feel lovable, I mean, it's interesting how we decide that to have our basic human needs map, the Maslow hierarchy of needs, security, lovability, safety, all of these pieces. We have this weird idea that if I'm busy, I get approval, therefore I'm significant, therefore I'm loved, dot, dot, dot.
That is the good girl with sloth,
Right.
which I've just recently read in a book that I'm reading about the good girl. Yes,
Yes.
don't be lazy.
Yeah.
Be a good girl, be productive, get something done. Show me all the things you ticked off on your to-do list.
Mm,
That makes you valuable. That's your contribution. And since my contribution is not financially driven right now, it's got to come from somewhere else. And if it's picking up the toys, then at least it's picking up the toys and giving my family a clean house.
mm,
And that has to be looked at because that being my priority over stillness says something about the good girl in me, when I
mm,
know the real medicine of being in this void is to be as still as I can be.
mm. I mean, your motivation to move into what is your current void was motherhood. Am I right?
Yeah, so I'll just give a little description of how it started, maybe.
Yeah, that's a good
Yeah.
idea.
So I was doing a lot of work at my company, and then it got acquired. So that gave me space that I didn't know what to do with. I started ramping up coaching and doing more in hiring like a business consultant, a speaking consultant, and wanting to travel more to do talks and that route. Um, so I was taking on new skill sets as well and enjoying the learning process. And that was really yummy and fun. And like to get on to do this TEDx, I just was totally over the moon about. It's a dream. It's so fun. But that momentum and the cycle of what I was learning, which I know you've talked about this before, which was really, I don't know if it's old school or if it's masculine or whatever, but like you have to have touch points with this many people this week so that you have leads and you can then, offer them your services and right and do the whole funnel. Ugh. Ugh. And I was doing it now on so many different spheres of this coaching ecosystem that I felt myself, it was like Sisyphus, like carrying this thing uphill forever. Um, I just, that was happening on the career side. And then financially, it wasn't leading to the lubricated kind of like success of, well, at least if I'm exhausting myself, I have all this money to show for it. That wasn't happening either. I was really like going hard at both ends. And then I was paying for a nanny to raise these two children that I had worked really hard through IVF to have. None of that seemed in balance. And what I know is true, and what I really had to realize was it's not really about the finances, but any person who came to me looking for what I do, I could point them to someone else and they would be fine. But I can't point my kids to someone else and let them be fine. I mean, they would be fine, but like it's not an apples to apples thing, right? And so I knew in that void, in the experience of that burnout and that void coming, was okay, all of this hustling and looking to the thing that I couldn't reach that was going to give me the success that I wanted was where I felt like I was in the void. Like, show me the answer. Show me how this gets easier. Show me when, the momentum kicks in. And I was getting nothing, nothing for like a year, like nothing, nothing. And then what I finally saw was obviously right in front of my eyes, which was my two kids. And I described it in that time period of the void was only a mirage of me looking somewhere that the answer wasn't. And when I looked where the answer was, there was no more void because my kids were right there saying, I want your attention. I need your attention. This is your purpose. This is where you should spend your energy. And once that clicked, the void, that piece of the void, let's say, fell away. And
Mm.
what I had was knowing that even though I had no idea where I was, right? The void of like, where am I in life? No idea. But I knew I was where I was meant to be.
I'm a little bit confused about why you consider you're in a void now. Hear me out. Because I get that while you were, because I know your story, and we've talked a lot over the last 18 months of you moving into this space of parenting and of really giving yourself permission to be a mom, and that be so valuable, and that you are contributing to your family in a way that is of huge service and huge value, that once upon a time you didn't register that. And this is common for a lot of mums, right? Like, we don't put value on what it takes to bring up children, and how important that is, not just to our family but to society as a whole, actually. And so I'm imagining that while you are in the question of, am I valuable, am I contributing while being a mama, that was a void space. I think I'm witnessing you wholeheartedly embracing that now and seeing your value. You're actually doing it. You're doing the thing that you felt called to. And the void was letting go of the persona that had to be doing all the things and that didn't believe it was enough to, in inverted commas, just be a mum. was letting go of that identity and moving into the identity of a woman who values parenting, who values motherhood, who values being home for her kids, the one that does
Mhm.
the drop-offs, the pickups, the is around, the cooking, the, the things that you seem to be doing.
Mhm.
Okay, there's some challenge there of still wanting to prove your worth by, let me be busy and pick up toys for 30 minutes instead of going and having that coffee and relaxing and reflecting on what I want to write for my next book, perhaps. Do you see where I'm going with my question? Like, how are you in a void now?
Well, how you're reflecting it back to me, I almost want to laugh because it's so ubiquitous that women who become mothers are going to experience maybe not something like mine, but their own version of an identity crisis of like, who am I now that I wear this hat? Um,
Totally.
and so that is a void, but I'm not in new parenthood really anymore. And yet I am in a new internal period of who I am as a mother and how I want to show up in motherhood.
Mm-hmm.
And so this void is very, very internal. Like, whereas the first one, so much external changed around me,
Mm,
career, relationships, like literally where I lived, it all changed. Here, I'm doing the work of the void in daily life without burning it down.
mm,
And the focus is on what does my internal rhythm look like inside of this larger environment that I'm in, and really honoring her
mm.
and slowing down and speeding up and being type A and being type B when it's called for,
Yeah.
and allowing myself to be more than this new role of mother, this like all the boxes and things that I still live inside of, not having to rail against them to become free to discover who I am, to be
Mm,
inside of them and just sort of melt and then show up as my own shape without whatever box being an obstacle at all. Does that make sense?
it does make sense. Oh my gosh. And you word it so beautifully. So beautifully.
I would say thank you. I would say, I'm not in the business of comparing, although of course we all do it, but I don't say this with any means of comparing. But my mother wound is very big in my life. It's a deep driver of who I am and what I'm meant to be doing in this world. It's more about who I am being than what I am doing. Because showing up as the mother for me is something that I never wanted to be and a thing I never wanted to do. So all the vocational questions I'm still really passionate about and they really matter. But this sort of like handing the generational baton of the mother-daughter karma and the work, I know and I feel so strongly in this void is the work of the void. So the baton that I pass to my daughter is going to be different than was passed to me. It already is, but I'm going to do as much work as I can. It is just the thing that lights the fire in me more than anything else is what kind of baton am I passing my kids?
Mm. And when you say work, you mean the inner.
Yes.
Yes. Yeah. That's really beautiful. And it's so interesting, isn't it? Because I can relate. I'm at a different stage, but I can relate to the mother wound and I can relate to re-identifying because as you know, when we were in Bali together, I had completion with my mother wound. And my mother wound is what had fueled my career up until that point. And it's not bad. It was beautiful. I mean, it was all that surrounded my mother wound and the way my mum lived and transitioned. There was a gift in all of that. that enabled me to grow as a woman, and then pass that on and heal and grow even more as I passed it on as a coach. And then there was a completion with that mother wound, to give myself permission to be in the void space, so not working while motivated by that mother wound, if that makes sense, which I can only see now. And in fact, even just speaking to you right now, I'm like, oh, that's what that was.
Yeah. I really, and so the other thing I wanted to add, what you're saying about like, is this really a void, is like yes and no. Like it comes and it goes. I feel like
Right.
it's the tsunami of it is over. I'm definitely in the upswing, but there's still these ripples that are coming down, and I'm still learning how to integrate the thing that I was asking for through this void. And I do it sometimes, and sometimes I don't do it very well, right? And the thing I was asking for was really to step into the full power of the mother and to stop shying away from it, and refusing it to be a big role of my life. So
Mm,
even though motherhood isn't always about fun and play and happiness and joy, um, what I do feel anchored in, what I'm integrating, is it is the most powerful role to date for me. And I need to be present in it
yeah.
to know what that power looks like. And part of that power is being able to enjoy my kids, even when life is really messy.
It's really beautiful, Dani, because in the internal listening of you choosing to parent, to be a mum in a way that is new. But this is a new experience because it wasn't your experience.
Right.
And it hasn't been an easy ride choosing this, but you did it anyway. And right there, it's the challenge. I mean, this is what juices me up and gets me excited, is when someone feels like, I am meant to do X, and I don't know how, and I don't know why, and I don't wanna, and it's very uncomfortable, but I'm gonna fucking do it. That, because in the listening and in the doing of that, even if you don't know the how, you'll figure it out, you'll be shown the way. And it's only in that experience that we evolve. And then we integrate that evolution and we take it into our next chapter. And it's that then shows us where we're meant to go next and what we're meant to do next and the impact we're meant to have or not, or whatever, and where it is. It's so exciting.
I love it you are saying that, because you're putting it into such better words than I've ever used to describe it. But I feel the same way in that I would vet potential clients by their commitment to their dream, right? Like, are you really going to stand for this when shit gets hard? Or are you going to fall into the safe, which is fine. There's no judgment. Like, I've done it. We all kind of cling to safety and comfort sometimes. Maybe it's not the right time, but like I want people who are in that time, that fire of commitment, and are ready to burn away the old and step into the new. Like that's where I get really excited too. And I think maybe because both we're both people like that, these voids are really exciting places. We're like, what's coming around the corner? What do I get to become? And I'm committed to the journey of moving through the void to see what that is.
And that is daring and mighty.
Sure is.
Yeah. Yeah. It really is. Oh my goodness. So I'm aware of the time and we probably ought to wrap up. Could do you feel like giving a little teaser insight? Are you able to say anything at all about your new book that you're writing? Is that easy, or is that just you're not ready?
I mean, I can say this. I can say that it came to me in a channel in like Christmas time 2024, which was right when I realized that I needed to stop working and be full-time mom and like accept the void. So I accepted space and
Mm.
then pop opened something through the space. And this book is what I'm, only now realizing is this book is the experience of the void, to be honest, in a lot of ways. I mean, if I told you I tracked it against the post-heroic journey, and it is the feminine journey um, of what power, sovereignty, authenticity, masculine, feminine look like with this character, the protagonist, who kind of has this wonky experience with a mystic and learns that she's going to live forever. And so she has to kind of go through these cycles of becoming throughout time and learn how to deal with love and grief and belonging in a cities that change and technologies that change and people that change. And also understanding that she's more than that 3D world anyway. And so how does she find, bigger stability, bigger consistency, bigger anchoring in life and her trust in who she is and what her life is meant to look like in a deeper dimensional space.
I love how your brain works. I do. I do. And I cannot wait to read this book.
Well, I've interviewed you for it. Yeah, I'm interviewing 50 women for the book,
Yeah.
and it's really important to me that the protagonist is a representative of the current
Mm.
experience of women. And you also blow me away with your life and your stories and your imagination of things, and it gives me really good juice to, stir into the soup of what this book looks like.
I love that. And because we touched on it earlier, just to wrap up, the astrological piece and how at certain ages and stages of life we move through new, you know, the creation or the realization of new identities. And because you are 38, then you know that you have more to come in terms of like around 49 to 51, right? How do you feel about that now? Because you're conscious of it. I'm only just realizing it now. And in reflection, I'm realizing the last void I've been in that I'm still kind of, the more I have these conversations, the more I realize I'm still there a little bit and I'm still integrating from it. And it's only through these conversations I'm looking back and realizing, oh, I went through a re-identification at that age. Oh, I went through it at that age. And I can see backwards. You've got this perspective much younger. So how are you feeling about knowing that there's more to come in this arena of identity?
You know, I'm a trailblazer. It wouldn't be life if these voids didn't keep on coming. I feel like I'll only fully have integrated this void when I get to the next one. It takes me a lot of time to reflect and integrate. I'm actually jealous when you said you come home, like let's say from your 3 week road trip, and now you need time to integrate it. For me, I'd still be way too close. Like I need months, if not years, to reflect on these things.
I'm going to need a few weeks. I know that.
Like stuff comes up in the moment, right? Like we
Mm.
can have those like, holy shit, I see this now. I didn't see this before, and this is big. And those plenty of those happen, but truly it feels like the wisdom. I'm excited for the wisdom of this void to really show up in black and white clarity in 10 years. Whatever.
And a bestseller.
Yes, exactly. Yeah, maybe that's when the next book will be. But I mean, who knows how long it'll take.
Yeah. Oh, darling, thank you so much for your time today. Thank you for sharing your stories and your wisdom. I love you dearly.
I love you, Katie. Thank you for having me on my favorite podcast.
My pleasure. See you later.
See you later.
Wasn't that the most wonderful conversation with Dani? She absolutely delivered stories in a way that I just knew she would. She's a beautiful storyteller, so much wisdom, so much heart and soul. I trust that so much of what she shared was relatable and you've taken some nuggets from that for yourself on your own journey. And if you really did relate to our conversation, and if you've related to the conversations I've been having up until now in season 1 of this podcast, and if you find that you are also in some kind of version of the sacred void, if you feel that you too are being invited into like a new identification of self, if there's stuff that you know that you're needing to let go of and you're not too sure how, if you have this sense that you're moving towards something new but you're not too sure what, and you're in that sacred void space, please come and join my free 5-day event. We start next week on the 20th of October. It runs for, as I said, 5 days, completely free. And I'm essentially going to help you crack open the door to what's next for you. This isn't about making sure you get all your answers in 5 days. Some women may. And for most of you, it's really going to be an opportunity to dial in and connect with your inner self, with your inner wisdom. Remember who you are and just crack open the door to what's next for you. I'll be kicking off the 5-day event with probably my favorite masterclass. So on Sunday, the 19th of October, I will be teaching my class, which is called Empowered Feminine Confidence. And we're going to be diving deep into masculine and feminine energetics, how you have masculine and feminine energy within you, what that even means, what that is, how they interplay, and how you can bring this information into your life so that you are living more energetically aligned within yourself, so that you're receiving kind of inner peace, hearing your inner wisdom, doing life from a place that is inspired and completely aligned with the truth of who you are. So we'll kick off our 5 days with this extraordinary masterclass, Empowered Feminine Confidence. It will set you up for the week ahead. And then we get a whole week to hang out together. Like I said, it is online and you will be guided by me every step of the way with a little daily meditation, a little daily journaling practice, some identity activation work. You'll come onto a call every evening and ask me your questions and get coached and be in community with other women who are probably exactly where you're at, who get it, and we're in this together. So please do sign up. It's, like I said, completely free. I'll make sure the link is included in the show notes. I hope to meet you there. Thanks for joining today. Please do comment if you feel inspired to. Please leave a review if you feel inspired to, and share it with your friends. See you next time.